Today we are taking a look at the AMD FX 9590 to not only see if this particular one still works, but to see if it can run games here in 2020, just in case you're able to find one out on the used market and you want to see if it's worth anyone's time, money, and energy. Let's jump into it. But if this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn more about building PCs and other gaming related stuff, consider clicking the subscribe button and notification bell to catch all new uploads like this one the moment they drop. Doing this helps me grow here on YouTube and as a content creator, and for that I appreciate you all to the moon and back. What's happening YouTube and the internet? Terrence here, and we are back inside the lab and taking a look at a motherboard CPU RAM combo that was dropped off to me here locally because the previous owner couldn't get it to turn on. And the motherboard and CPU in question is the ASUS Sabertooth 99FX Gen 3 R2 edition and the AMD FX 9590, which is essentially a 4-core 8-threaded CPU with a 4.7 GHz base clock and a turbo of up to 5 GHz, along with what is assumed to be 4 8GB sticks of RAM that would bring our system to 32 GB in total, all housed on an AM3 socket. And then for video, we will be using a reference GTX 1070 to benchmark our games at both low and very high settings. And now with that aside, it's time to see if the 9590 has anything left in the tank, or to see if it can run games here in 2020. But first, we need to get everything set up and then see if we can bring the system to life. And when you look at that, AM3 is alive and kicking once again. We're in the BIOS, and so far so good, although there is this weird bug here in the BIOS where we have our 32 GB of Corsair DDR3 RAM, but Windows in the BIOS is only showing 24 available. Not sure if it's a bad DIMM or the 8 GB is for the system reserve, but other than that, I've gone ahead and already started the process of installing Windows. Now it's time to see how well the 9590 does running some of today's most popular games.
Sirens! Fuck the cops! T, hit the shutter switch! What's this? Local resistance? It ain't supposed to go down like this. It never is! Come on, go! Drop it, prick! Blame the pricks who called you out here! Forward! Come on, guys!
And we are back, ladies and gents. And while the AM3 socket may very much be outdated, maybe even a little obsolete, it is definitely not completely irrelevant. Because jumping in and taking a look at a few of the benchmarks, which the 9590 did struggle to keep up at times with our GTX 1070, but jumping in and taking a look at the benchmarks here, starting with GTA 5, we did see averages of 94 FPS at a mixed bag of normal settings, and then Fortnite, where we saw averages of over 100 FPS at mixed settings, and then Call of Duty Warzone, where we saw playable averages at normal settings, but then the 1070 was really able to spread its wings once we kicked up the settings a tad bit. And really that was the key here to maintaining playable FPS on this setup, and that was to leverage our graphics card as much as possible, or keeping the GPU utilization over at least 90%. Other than that, we would get a mild bottleneck with CPU utilization pushing into the mid 80s. Which another potential downside is that the 9590 isn't very power efficient, having a max 225 watt TDP, which meant unless you're on a closed loop or a really good AIO, 4.9 or 5 gigahertz was pretty much all you were going to get when manually overclocking this chip. But on this setup with a 240mm Corsair AIO, I was pushing in the mid 40s while gaming, but was still able to dial in an overclock to 5 gigahertz at 1.478 on the core and a mild load line calibration with a hybrid memory XMP of 1600 megahertz at 1.5 voltage and default timings. And the overclock did manage to pass a Cinebench R15 run, scoring 757 points, hitting a max temperature of 54°C during the benchmarks, which was about 200 points higher than stock or 4.7 gigahertz and roughly on par with an overclocked 3770K. The overclock also did help alleviate the bottleneck in some of our games, making GTA 5, for example, about 5 to 10 frames faster at the same settings. And while temperatures were fine during AVX lows, which the 9590 tops out at around 70 degrees C, the amount of noise and voltage required to maintain this stability is a hard trade-off. It's just not a viable option for everyday use, maybe only during your gaming sessions. But actually the issue here isn't even really necessary performance. It's more so the price to performance, or the value for your money. Because of the flexibility of the AM4 socket, Ryzen provides similarly priced configurations at an arguably lower price. They won't overclock as high, but you'll be getting much better IPC and power efficiency. But as I demonstrated here today, the FX 9590 and now 8-year-old CPU is definitely down, but not out for the count. And to learn more about building PCs and other gaming related stuff, jump to either of the two playlists to the left of your screen. Consider clicking the subscribe icon down there to be ahead of the game. And with that out the way, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thanks for giving this one a watch. I hope to catch you all in the next one. So until then, be easy.